terms of setting up the template,
So basically, we're going to draw this part. There is no project name, but we're going to call it Lab 7. And basically, what we want to start out with is a template, which you guys probably already have. If you like, you can fill out the information. Call it Lab 7, which we can do. So you double click in this area. We do Lab 7. And that's the first step, is the most important, is saving your work. But the moment you save it the first time, it has autosave set up. So after that, every 15 minutes, it autosaves. So in case something crashes, these computers are notorious for breaking down pretty fast. So if you save it the first time, it's gonna save it every 15 minutes. And that's important. So you've got to make sure that you save your work, especially the first time. So you go File, Save As, and you save your file. And then you can continue working on your project. Now, for preferences, I always like to draw near or at the origin, which is 0, 0. Sometimes it's hard to actually select a point at 0, 0. So what I recommend doing is creating a line that starts from 0, 0. By doing that, you have a point where you can start drawing from. To do that, you go to your line command, you type in 0, 0, and you can see that it snaps onto the origin, which is 0, 0. And then you can just click anywhere on the screen to create that line, but you have your center point for the origin. So you can work from there to create those circles for this object.
you can work from any point you want.
Yes, but preference, if you're using CNC machines, they want to you want to limit yourself to that area. Plus, if your origin is over here and your drawing is way in space out here, you won't be able to catch it. And then if you do zoom out, your origin's here, your drawing's here.
But you just want to start like 5, 5, or 10, 10, just a little bit.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah,
inside,
definitely.
A little bit inside.
Yeah, you can do that. And at the point is, there's another point that you can actually move the UCX, the visual view of it. So I can just move it over, even though my line starts at 0, 0.
But when you move it, everything's going to move with it.
No. So it's a little tricky.
It is okay.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with that. But let's not get into that because that might be a little too advanced. So basically, we're going to start with a circle at our origin, or if you did not prefer to use your origin, it's fine. And our first size, if we go to our drawings, which is the first one, is diameter of 2.55. In 2014 and 13, there was a new option. I actually have the old version here for some reason. I don't actually need to. So you go circle, origin, and in 2013 and 14, they give you the option of actually clicking on the options on the command bar. So right here it says diameter. I can click on that, and that gives me the option to type in the diameter because the radius is set at default. So we're going to type in 2.55 to give us our circle, which it disappeared. Great way to start the day. Oh, there it is. That was really small. My line was very huge. That sometimes happens. So keep in mind, just because you draw a line doesn't mean it's going to be, very small line. Okay. I would recommend doing the other circles at the same point. So we're going to use even the center lines, which are these circles right here, for coordinating where these circles are located. We got to create this reference line, and so forth with this one and this one. So there's going to be a lot of circles that we're going to start out with. So our first circle's there. Now that we have one circle, and I deleted that reference line because I don't need it any longer, and I have to make sure my OSNAP, right click, my OSNAP center is on. Otherwise, I won't be able to select the center of the circle. So you have to make sure that's on. At that point,
on your screen, you have the ribbon down below there that has Enter, Snap, Grid.
So from this point, we create a circle from the center. Now sometimes you won't be able to hit the center. You won't see that center mark. If you can't see it, you can't snap onto it, what I recommend is hovering over the circle itself. Then a little marking should appear in the middle where you can select and create your second circle, which is the radius this time of 2.375. I got that from the drawing. If you look here, 2.375. So I'm going to type that in. I don't have to click on diameter because we are putting radius. 375. And by clicking enter or space or even right clicking, you can go back to your previous command, which is circle, and do this once over again. This time it will be radius of 4.125. Normally what you don't want to do, especially in designing, is you want to keep either everything diameter or everything radius. Sometimes you can get confused, and your next person that reads your work, he'll assume that everything is a radius, and all of a sudden he finds out that one of them or two of them are diameter. So that's just quick reference. Okay, so we have our 3 circles. We have one more to go, and it's going to be a radius of 5.5. That's the outside complete. So if we look here, radius of 5.5. Next step will be to make sure that each line that we created, it's either the solid line or the center line, so that we don't get confused. The first one will be solid, second line will be center line, third one will be center line. So these two in parts will be a center line. Hopefully, yeah. Al did set this up for you guys, so I'm glad he did that. It makes my life a little easier. And you guys can see that it's centered. But these are center lines. So basically we have these. Now we can actually create the circles inside, the small ones. We'll start with that. So these little circles that are centered at this big circle, but they're kind of rotated, except for this one. It's going to be divided by 3. So we'll do a polar array, a new command, I hope, or maybe an old command. But first of all, we'll need to create that center line that's going across, so we can use that as a reference to help us place this circle. To do that, we go with the line command. We start from the center. We make sure our ortho is on. You can type in F8 or you can click on ortho. You'll see it's like a 90-degree angle symbol. And we're going to stretch it out a little bit over the circle. And the next thing we want to do is select that same line and drag or click on the center blue mark and just drag it over to the other side of the circle. Now, if you guys like it to be completely, equal on both sides, what you can do is select the line. You see the blue point at the middle. We can use the move command. Select the midpoint. Now, if you don't have access to snapping onto the midpoint, that's alright. It's just that it's off on your OSNAP. So if you right-click on your OSNAP, you can make sure your midpoint is on. It should be highlighted. If it's highlighted, perfect. If it's not, then you should turn it on. So from there, we take the midpoint and we just move it over to the center. Again, if you can't click on the center, all you have to do is hover around the circle, and that will give you that center marking where you can snap onto.
Can you go back to clicking the line?
So one of the options you can do is select the match properties option. So you select that option. You select what it allows you to do is to match an existing layer type to a new line that you created, or any line you created. So I want to match my center line to my actual horizontal line. So you click one and you click the other. That's all you have to do. And you can keep on clicking so everything else turns to that layer. Sometimes it's beneficial, especially when you have 1,000 layers as an architect, or and you don't want to look through to find the exact one you're looking for, but you already have the layer next to it.
The match property icon is which one up there? So the sequence is hit the icon match property, then hit the one you.
So once we have that, now we have an actual point where we can create that circle that we need. Based on the drawing, we need that circle. It's shown as it's centered at the horizontal line. We only can assume since there is no specifications. So we go back to our drawing. We create a circle that is an intersection. If you don't have the intersection option on, then you have to go back to OSNAP and make sure you have intersection on. If it's on, perfect. If it's not, make sure it's on. Okay, so intersect, and our diameter is actually 1.001. We could leave it at diameter of 1. I think that 0.001 was a accidental mistake. So we can type in D for diameter, enter, or you can select the diameter option at the bottom. Notice that any command that has a capital letter and it's a different color, that's all you really have to type in. So at this point, D enter would give you this option. Sometimes you have a few different options, and only the capital letter is a shortcut to selecting that item. So in older versions where you did not have the option of selecting or clicking on diameter, you would type in D enter, or actually I can show you guys an example. We had an arc. Let's see. Oh no, that's not the one. We need to find a command that would work perfect for you guys. So in this case, it's a polyline, P-line. We have all these options. Now, in 2010, you can type in just the first capital letter, and it will directly go to that command. So for arc, it will be A. For close, will be C. For half width, you type in H. Length, L, U, W. So only the capital letters. Sometimes letters do repeat. So it could be probably closed and then a circle, or arc. Closed and circle both start with C. One of them will be 2 letters, capital. So that's the way you would select that item. You would type in CL if the L was capital. Okay, now back to our circle.
Do you have extra copy?
It's okay. Back to that circle. So circle, intersect, and diameter of 1. D enter, 1 enter. Now we need to create 3 of these, perfectly aligned to each other, symmetrical. So we go to, instead of array, we go to polar array, because we are arraying an object around in a circle kind of way. So we select the object we are arraying. So it says select object. One of the key things is your command toolbar is key to any issues you may have. If you can't figure out why something's not working, just reading the bottom usually solves the issue. So keep that in mind. That's a really important tool. So you select that circle, click enter or space, because it's asking you if you want to select any more. No, you're fine with just selecting that one object. And it's going to ask you the base point or axis of rotation or a center point. We're working with the center point because we know the exact center point, so we'll do that, which is even the midpoint of this line since we moved it to the center. So if it snaps onto the midpoint like it's specified, that's fine. From there, yes?
Did you pick?
So I got the polar array. Now I want to change the number of circles from 6. We change it over here to 3.
Are you getting to that table? That shows
To turn on that table, what you want to do is go to, instead of there's going to be rectangle array, you change it to polar array. You select that object, that command, you select your object that you want to array, and then you click enter, and then you select the center of the array.
Yeah, what I mean, how do you get that 6? You know?
Okay, so basically we have the polar array. We do have the 3 parts established, 3 circles, so that is complete. We can exit close the array, so you can select close. We're not going to go with the other options because these are all the options we need. And our next thing is, bless you. Next thing is we need to create these slots. We're not going to do this yet. We'll do this to the end. Or actually, we might have to do that at the same time. So we're going to design this part right here. The reason I'm picking this one out of the other two is this one's on this horizontal line, which is going to help us dictate exactly the size of this slot. Now, to design this, we already have the center of it, but we don't have the top and bottom of the slot. To get that, we need to figure it out using a little bit of math. So we can tell that the radius is 0.75. So if we offset from this center line 0.75 both ways, that will give us our outline of these two circles. Now, to give you an easier explanation of this, I'm going to take a part of this drawing. You don't have to do this at all. And I'm going to take it and place it into my drawing so I can give you guys a little view of this. It's not going to be exactly to scale because that would take too long for me to do, but it should help figure out exactly what I'm trying to do. So I'm creating this part here. Move it over. To do that, I go to the offset command, and for the offset distance, which is what it's requesting, the offset will be 0.75.
So that should, this young lady is woefully behind. And
So basically the next step will be to do that offset. So you go to your offset command, type in that 0.75, and we're going to offset this center circle out, and then we're going to offset again inside. So you'll see a lot of lines, and that's just fine because we need to do. Wait, am I adding too many lines here? This one here, offset this way and this way. No, we're good. Okay, so basically, to give it a little clearer view and easier understanding, you guys don't have to do this, but I'm gonna trim a portion of these to get a better understanding. So I just trimmed it a little bit just to give you guys easier understanding of what part we need. So these lines are actually going to be these lines here, and I can change the layer type from center to a regular layer 7, I guess that's what we'll be using. So that is what we need. Now, to create the location of this circle here, I don't know if I guess, no, you probably can't see my mouse. So to create this circle here, we have this center line. Now, the only issue is I'm trying to figure out now is, oh, there it is. So it starts from 20 degrees, is the first one, then it's 40 degrees to the center, and it's another 40 degrees to this center. So technically speaking, this slot is 40 degrees from our horizontal line. So, right? Am I doing that right? 40, 80, 100, I have 80 here, so 40, 40. Yeah.
4.5 into 180.
Why not 20?
This is not 20. You can tell 20 is right here. So on the other side it would be right here, but it's not, so it's here. So it's 40 degrees. So we're going to create a line, a reference line, and we're going to rotate it up 40 degrees. I like to do this part because once we have one side of this complete, all we need to do is mirror it, and we'll get the other side, cutting our time based upon, you'll see what I'm trying to explain in shortly. So what we want to do is create a line from the center or the midpoint, and it should be a little bit longer than what your horizontal line is, so it's a lot easier to select. Otherwise, if it's shorter, it'll be hard to just select that new line instead of hitting the horizontal line. We select that item, we go to our rotate command, it's right here, so you rotate, we select, it's going to ask us to specify base point. Our base point will be the center of our whole drawing, so we select the center, or the end point at this point, because the end point of this line is the center. And we're going to rotate it 40 degrees. Here's the trick, which I always forget. It's either -40 or +40. So I think it's going to be +40. So I type in 40 degrees. Nope, I was wrong. Not my luck. So I undo, and I rotate again, but this time knowing that I have to type in -40. So it rotates -40, and that is going to be our center mark right here for our circle. So you can use that intersect OSNAP option, which you probably have already on, and we're going to create a circle at that point. Now be careful. You can see that I have a midpoint, and that is not what I want, because that's the midpoint of this line, which may not be aligned. As you can see, if I zoom in closer, it is not aligned to this point where I need it to be. So keep that in mind. So intersect is what I'm looking for, and our size is going to be, we can either type it in, which is radius 0.75, or I just snap on to this arc, because I know exactly how thick the arc is. It's 0.75 radius, so each way, so 1.5. Click on it, and I'm done with that part.
How did you get to the line rotate?
Yeah, I was
Sure.
gonna ask you that.
Okay, so basically, our next step, once we have the circle created here, which you may not have done, so we'll do that again. You use the circle command, you select the intersect point, nothing else. You have to make sure it's intersect, and then you select the perpendicular. It even shows you there, perpendicular, and that snaps on and creates the circle the same thickness as this slot, which is 0.75 radius.
We just used the 2-point circle and just click on
But you would need the center. Or wait, yeah, you have the two endpoints. Yeah, you can do that. I mean, it's just preference at that point. Then we use the trim command. Here's a key factor about trim that I always teach. I don't know about the other teachers. Trim, the only easiest way to use it is if you select the entire object. So select entire object, click enter. It's going to ask you if you want to select any more. Well, kind of selected everything, so no, that's it. Enter. And then you start clicking on things you don't want to keep. Just like that. And that will remove any parts that are not necessary. This horizontal line that I rotated, I think I had an extra one, so I'm going to delete that. And this one, I can change the layer now. So I either do the match properties, which I showed you, or I select the line and change it through here. Both will work. Our next part is to get the bottom arc here. To do that in a safe and easy way, you just have to mirror this arc down here and use our horizontal reference line as our mirror plane. To mirror, we go to mirror command. We select the object we would like to mirror, which is this arc. Now, it shows here that there is a center line at this arc too. We can mirror that one too if you like, or not. It's up to you. I'm not sure if you really need it. It just jumbles up the drawing because they don't even specify dimensions to it. They just show it there. But if you like, you can select both of these. And now it's going to ask you, do you want to select any more? No, I'm done. These two items is just enough. So I click enter. And now we're going to draw a line, specify the mirror. We select from the midpoint or center of the object, and we make sure our ortho is on, and we go all the way across and just click. Now it's going to ask us if we want to erase the original selected object, which is these two. No, I want to keep those, and no is our default, so I just click enter. That creates the second portion of the slot where I need to trim off everything. And like you guys heard me say, when you use trim, select the entire object, click enter, and just start removing things you don't like. Just like that. Quick, easy, simple. So basically our next step, what we want to do is do this little slot here over here that's cut out, because, well, actually, if you guys can see, the drawing, actually, the 3D drawing is a little different from the original. There's little tabs here. We could add those in if you like. But anyways, we gotta do this first because I want just to mirror this whole entire object, array this object all the way around. That way I have to worry about, doing it over at each part. So we're gonna do this right now. And to do that, it specifies these two dimensions. 0.375 is the offset from the horizontal line, which we'll use. The 0.75 is actually what we really don't need. So it's, again, one of those dimensions that, sure, it's there, but it doesn't help us at all. Because we already know that if this one's 0.375, then this one's going to be 0.375. So we're going to use the offset command again. This time we're going to offset that horizontal line. So you go to offset command, you're going to type in the distance of 0.375, enter, and we're going to offset that horizontal line up, and we're going to do it again. We're going to do it downwards too, and click enter or escape from the command. So we have these two lines that we need, and we're going to just trim out this area here, including these horizontal lines that we just offsetted. Again, with trim, I always recommend select the entire object, click enter, and then just remove things you don't like. I don't like these two pieces, and I don't like this being so long. Now, since I kind of trimmed it out, but I left these two horizontal lines, it would take me a long time to trim each part up to the end, and which the end I would not be able to trim out or delete. So I'm just going to select these two items and delete them. And I end up with something like this. The only issue here is that these are center lines, and these should be actually the same layer as our object. So at this point, I'm going to use match properties, select these lines, and match it to that layer type. So I have something like this. In addition, these drawings don't specify it, but if you look closely enough, there is a fillet at these corners. So we'll put those in right at the moment.
It's too elevated. I mean, it's too unelevated.
Okay, so basically our next step will be to create fillets in these edges. We want to make fillets of 0.125. They're not shown on the drawing, but that's what oh, actually they are, right here, 0.125. Hey, that was a good guess.
Where does it say?
Right here.
Oh.
So 0.125. We want to do that before we do the polar array, otherwise we'll have to redo it each edge, so it's more work. So we do the fillet, we do radius 0.125, and we radius these edges. You click enter to go back to the command. The fillet size is the same, so you don't have to worry about anything except just doing those fillets. Once you have that completed, what we're going to do again is use the polar array. So you select polar array. If you have rectangle array, just hit that arrow, get to polar array, and select the entire object here. Nothing else. You don't want to select anything else. A good option, which I always recommend, is using a left to right selection, which creates a blue box. If you can see, if you go to from right to left, it creates a green box. Green box selects everything it touches. Blue box only selects objects that are completely inside the blue box. So right now, only this, which is highlighted, is completely inside the blue box. If I move it over until those circles are in, it highlights it. Since it's an array, it selects all three. If we keep on going, we get the center circle. If we keep on going, we get that red center circle. So take that into consideration. So we're going to only select this part here. And it's going to ask us to select more objects. No, we're done for selecting. So we click enter.
Sebastian,
And
go back to the fillet.
so let's,
If you want to do multiples, you did.
all right, so our next step is, again, blue box, select that entire object, including those fillets and that horizontal line right here, that opening. We use our polar array. That's going to ask us to select the center point, which is going to be the center of our object. Right now there's 6 of them. It looks pretty cool, but that's not what we want. We want only 3 of them, so we type in, for items, we change it to 3. And that will automatically equal it out at the 360, so it's going to create 120 degrees in between each other. So it creates that. We close the array because that's what we like. And now we can just trim off these parts here that we don't need. Again, trim, select the entire object, click enter, and remove the parts you don't like.
So you hit pull right, basically everything that you had.
Yep.
It's saved.
So basically we have the whole entire object complete. What we want to do is you can start putting the dimensions in. Now if you need additional lines to show the arcs, right here, the angles, you can do that by again doing the rotate command, or you can do the rotate copy command, which I haven't shown you guys, which is you take the rotate command, you select the object you would like to rotate, which is this line, the center line, click enter, specify a base point, which will be the center of your entire object, and we can type in C for copy. That allows you to copy this line and rotate it. So copy, and then we're going to type in negative, I think it's going to be 40. And that creates that second arc that we're looking for our positioning of this circle. So we can go to our annotate dimensions, we go to our angular, and we select these 2 lines giving us a 40-degree angle, and these 2 lines creating our 40-degree angle. So that helps us establish where these slots are located. And of course you guys have to add in all the other dimensioning styles. I would recommend either stick with radius or diameter, but don't do both. So you do that, stuff like that. And you can use the drawings as guidance, but then again, they may have more dimensions than they need, or they may have not enough. So keep that in mind. Not all drawings are perfect. Most of them are. So that is the first part. Then once we have that complete, we will be in Paperspace, where you would double click into your viewport that's already pre-established. You can do a zoom extent. My view is isometric, I'm not sure why. I can just do a front top view, which is not what I actually need. Here's situate. Let's see. I need to change that view to be top view. So I changed it to top view so I can get the dimensions correctly placed. Important rule about placing your object in viewports is making sure that your viewport scale is correct. Establishing a somewhat of a reasonable scale will allow people to measure with a ruler if need to when it's printed out. This one's gonna be, nope, it's gonna be maybe 1:1 even. Let's see. No, too big. So it's like 1:2. That is a good size. Pretty much fills the page. I want to leave a space here for our 3D view of this object. Now to do the 3D object of this part, I always make a copy of it. We don't want to use our original to create a 3D view. We're going to make a copy first, so you select copy. If you like, you can select the entire object or only the parts that you need. You click enter, you make a copy somewhat of a distance away. And we're going to remove anything we don't need, dimension styles or center lines, because those are not necessary anymore. This one's a simple object where we can use our press pull command. So you can type in press pull. Oops. Pull. Select the inside of the object. And the thickness is not specified, but I will think it's about ½ an inch or 0.2. Yeah, ½ an inch is fine. So 0.5. Enter. So we have our 3D object. And from here, I want to create a new viewport where I can put that 3D object in. So I go to my View Option tab here. If you don't have these tabs, what you can do is hit that arrow down here and say show menu bar. Right now it says hide because I already have it shown. You go to view, viewports. So view, viewports, viewport 1. That's the easiest way to create one. And you just create a box specified to your liking. At this point, you'll see both your items inside this viewport. You double click to zoom into your 3D. Now the 3D one it's not important what scale you're in because no one's going to scale it from the 3D. They're not supposed to. From here, you can change your views to, instead of a 2D wire, to a conceptual or a realistic view. So we have something like that, and you can zoom it in to your own preference. That ends this part. That way they have an understanding of what this part looks like. But again, we may need to put a detail here that the thickness is 0.5 because we don't have that right now. So keep that in mind. In addition, if you want to go a little higher effort, if you see these drawings, there's actually a fillet on all these edges. This one has slots in them too, some weird ones. We can skip those, but I would also recommend to put these fillets in. To do that, you have a, oh, this is the wrong one. You have a 3D object, like so.
Did we already put the fillets in?
We put the fillets in here, but we didn't put it on this edge. So what am I specifying is these have fillets on the edges all the way around, except the holes. The holes do not have the fillets because you want them without fillets. Basically, what you want to do, this is a tedious part, but you may like it. So fillet, the fillet's going to be 0.125, and you start selecting these edges until you have completed selecting all of them.
Did we do some of those that you already?
Yeah, we have these two little ones.
So those just went over again?
Now, this is filleting it from the top.
Oh, I see.
It's a completely different. Yeah, you would do it from all the way around. You do the top part first, and then you do the bottom second. So you do the fillet for this one first. It's a little tedious. I would. There's another option I'll show you, a quicker way, but this is the safest way. So we select that. Almost done. Make sure you get all these edges. These fillets need to be filleted also. And we click enter, and that creates that smooth look.
I'm sorry, but you're talking about just the outside, the circle in the center, and the three
Yeah.
circles are that.
Yeah. They're not, because you got some, either a hex or something that you need to put in, and you don't want that fillet. So for that, those you don't want. So this is one way of doing it. The other option, which I'll do the other side. I don't have my 3D rotate. I'm using shift and using my scroll button to rotate in 3D. But I would use fillet. The radius is set at 0.125, so I keep it. I select the entire face. That's not gonna let me do it. Yeah, I had a bad feeling about it. So radius, let's see this again. Multiple maybe. You can't mirror fillets unless they're 2D fillets. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Darn it. Okay, so I'll have to select each one to do it. I'll work on that other option later on today.